guys, Tommy from SFJ Jeeping here. So, a lot of you guys know, I just did a one-ton swap in my Jeep, and honestly, I'm not sure if it's because of quarantine or what, but it seems like a crazy amount of people are doing, whether it be junkyard or crate axles, one-ton swaps on their Jeep right now. So I figured I'd run you through how I personally did the one-ton swap on my Jeep, what parts I used, what I learned, because I definitely made some mistakes doing my one-ton swap, and things I would do differently, because there are quite a few of them, as there are with big expensive projects like this. And then at the end, I'll pretty much break down all the pricing so you guys can get an idea of what I spent and sort of what you can expect to spend. So we'll go ahead and start with the front of it, because that's usually where more than like a larger percentage of the money goes here, but it's honestly the part that probably people have the least questions about, because it's pretty much a lot of people tend to use the same stuff in the front. Rear, it changes a little bit, but yeah. Jeep's a little dirty right now because it just came from Hard Rock. But so for the Jeep JKs, there's really three main choices of axle you can run. There's the older Kingpin Dana 60s, and then the 99 to 04 Super Duty 60s, and the 05 Plus Super Duty 60s. Advantage of the Kingpin is it's not a ball joint axle, so the Kingpin, you're not going to have to worry about destroying a ball joint, but now we have lots of options with ball joint eliminators and such. I personally don't see that much appeal for a Kingpin axle anymore, but to each their own. So the next thing is going to be the 99 to 04 and the 05 Plus Super Duty axles. So pretty much whether this is going to work for you is really going to mostly depend on pretty much the year Jeep that you have. So if you have a 07 to 11, you can do the 9904 just fine. They're a lot easier to cut. You can usually find them cheaper. But if you have a 2012 Plus, then you're really going to want the 05 Plus, just because the ABS will work a lot happier, and the 05 Plus is a bit beefier of an axle than the 99 to 04. But the downside to the 05 Plus is you have a lot of really annoying cutting, so I'm going to go through that a little bit. So, yeah, pretty much, you got to cut all the brackets off. You got to cut the sway bar mounts here, which are really annoying. There's some sway bar mounts there. You got to trim this little ear here to fix, if you're running coil springs. If you're running coilovers, you can just leave that there. A lot of people just mount the coilovers on top of that. But hands down, the most annoying part of cutting the Dana 60, the 05 Plus, is this whole area. So you got two big radius R mounts here. It's cast. It takes forever to cut through, and then this cut is a super tricky cut. It's super hard not to dig into the axle. Luckily, I managed to do it without digging in too much. But if you're going to tackle the cutting on the 05 Plus, best thing to do, just go ahead and buy 50 angle grinder discs, like 50 cutting wheels. You won't regret it. I think I used 32 of them. Benchmark abrasives is a great place to buy them cheap. Get a portaband, just get a Harbor Freight portaband. That'll save you lots of time. If you're comfortable with the plasma cutter, that'll also save you a bunch of time. So cutting, everyone does cutting. There's not really a whole lot of variation to that. Now, the parts to do the swap, that's where the variation comes in. So we'll start with the ring and pinion. So ring and pinion, locker, etc. I did Yukon gear and axle, 538s. Extremely happy with that. Yukon is pretty much the best in the business when it comes to driveline parts. 538. So 538 is initially the Dana 44s because you can break things. This is more than beefy enough. 538 does a great job of turning 40s. Super happy with what I did there. Inside that we have the torque locker. So torque locker is an automatic locker. It's sort of like a lunchbox locker, but different style pin, so it's not as noisy. And yeah, in the front, I love it. And for low, it pretty much acts like a spool. Super strong. I am super happy with my torque locker in the front. And when I'm street driving, I can just unlock the hubs and you don't even know it's there. While we're here, so you have a couple of different options for the locking hubs on the 05 Plus. Unfortunately, Yukon doesn't make any. Otherwise, I just say go with some Yukon hardcore locking hubs. So it's pretty much put RC internals in the Ford hubs, leave the Ford hubs, worn or mile marker. So I know people who have broken both the Ford ones and the worn one. So Mile Marker had just released their new locking hub, so I figured I'd give them a shot. So far they've handled great. I'll probably do like if something happens with these, I'll let you know, but if you don't hear anything about it, it's because they're doing a great job. So far they've done phenomenal. Alright, so now one of the next controversial things with these 1-ton swap is bracket kit. There's so many different bracket kits available for these axles. Rtec makes 2 different kits, Barnes makes a kit, Moto Built makes a kit, TMR makes a kit, lots of different kits. I went with the Rtec just because they're frankly the most proven name, and they're the only company that I know of that has gone through 2 generations of these JK 1-ton swap kits. So they made one kit, they learned from it, and then they redesigned and made a new kit, which is this Apex truss. So yeah, I did the Rtec Apex truss. So it supposedly is about 70% less welding, so a lot less chances of warping things, etc. And it's still pretty beefy. Like, the Dana 60 is already beefy, and this is great too. Another big pro to the Apex kit is, so if you go with the normal original Rtec kit, the diff breather, which is back there, you have to run all sort of weird little fittings to get it out. That just fits right through, nice and easy. Everything bolts up, fantastic. A lot of people say they struggle with the lower control arms mounting up. I have rock crawler control arms, and they just fit in just fine. I didn't have any trouble. Keeping with Rtec, I went with the Rtec high steer arms. Nice thing about this is it gets the steering out of the way, and all the mounting points are double shear, so a lot less strain on everything. For steering, so the go-to thing for most people is to just do like DOM. I'm not the biggest fan of steel steering, especially on the tie rod, because pretty much things can they bend really, really easily. I had aluminum on my Dana 44s and really wanted to keep aluminum, but a lot of the big aluminum kits for this axle were $1,000 plus. So what I did is I went over to Wide Open Designs, measured the length just like I would with DOM, and just ordered some Wide Open Designs control arm links cut to length, and then just did rough stuff Heims, and I'm probably $350 wrapped up into this whole steering setup. As far as axle shafts, I'm running the F550 forward axle shafts because I had a ball joint failure on it was just a cheap ball joint, and it failed. Now I've got some better ball joints in there, but yeah, so when that happened, it broke an axle it broke a U-joint, so I figured I'm just going to put the 1550 shafts in there. So yeah, I shouldn't have to worry about breaking those things anytime soon. That's more than enough beef. For ABS, it's a Dodge Ram ABS sensor that talks to the Jeep and talks to the Ford axle. So honestly, I wouldn't do anything different on the front. I'm super happy with what I did in the front. Yeah, I honestly wouldn't change anything. Brakes are just the stock Ford brakes, but I did put new calipers on him. The whole Jeep has new calipers all the way around, new pads. So I'm pretty happy with the front. And also, I did do new unit bearings. So while I'm talking about that, I'll just go in and talk about this. So my biggest mistake when I was doing this was not replacing all the wear items. And literally every week I was replacing a wear item because they're junkyard axles. So if you're going to do the swap, go ahead and replace all your wear items. Unit bearings, wheel bearings, brakes, calipers. Just replace all of it. Save yourself the headache, because if you guys follow me on Instagram, you know this thing, I was wrenching on it a lot once I got it driving because it was just all the old junkyard stuff not working right. One thing that I probably would have done different on the front, it's not really axle, is the Trackbar Bracket. So I did the Barnes Trackbar Bracket specific for 1-ton swap on a JK. It's nice because it lets you just reuse your stock track bar, but a big downside is the pitman arm hits right here, and you lose a lot of your ability to, you lose a lot of your turning radius to the left. So I'm probably just going to grind down a little bit and reinforce it, and it'll probably be okay. I honestly think it would be more than strong enough without this extra bracket, because I mean, it looks like that was their intention at first with the curve, but yeah, it's just, clearance isn't the best with it. So yeah, I'll probably just try to make that one work, but I don't think I would do that bracket in particular again. So moving to the rear, so here is where you start to have a lot of different options when it comes to your 1-ton swap. So this is a 14 bolt out of a 99 to 07 Chevy Silverado 2500 gasser. That's some key. When you're looking for these, a lot of people just say 99 to 07 Silverado 2500. Make sure it's the gasser, because the diesels have the 11.5 14 bolt instead of the 10.5 14 bolt. The 11.5 has a lot less aftermarket support, and most of the swap kits work with the 10.5. Now the other option you can do is the Sterling 10.5, which is the Ford axle. So the pros of a Sterling are you can usually get him just with the Dana 60, just in a pair, save yourself some money, and you can get the factory Ford e-locker for like $500, which is pretty awesome. The downside of the Sterling, so the housing, you can't see it because of the truss, but the housing on the front side tends to make contact with the gas tanks on the JKs. So for those of you who don't know, us JK guys have the gas tank right there. So the pumpkin on the Sterling will come down really close to that gas tank, and under flex it'll hit. But it's really strange. It's a really hit or miss thing. Some people just have no trouble at all. Some people are able to get away with it with high lifts or big stretches. Some people have big stretches and still hit. Some people are able to get away with just hammering in. It's a really hit or miss thing. Now, I went with the 14 bolt. Now, the 14 bolt will clear the gas tank, which is why it's probably the most common setup for the JKs, but it does have a couple of downsides that you need to keep in mind. One, it's narrower than the Dana 60, and it's a different bolt pattern than the Dana 60, but both of those issues kind of solve themselves, because you can just do a spacer adapter, like what I did. It pretty much will match the width, and will switch the rear to 8x170 as well. Get yourself a quality American-made spacer and you won't have any trouble. So that's what I did there. Now, another problem of the 14 bolt is honestly the lack of selectable lockers. So usually you have your E-lockers, you have your air lockers, you have your aux locker. 14 bolt, the only selectable locker is an ARB air locker. So because I really wanted to wait for the aux locker mechanical, so I did the torque locker, just like I did in the front. Honestly, with my short wheelbase and a manual, I'm not the happiest with the torque locker. And if you have an automatic, you can't even run it in the rear because I've heard they throw the Jeep into limp mode, especially the newer JKs. But I honestly haven't. Off-road, it's great. Off-road, I have no complaints at all. Highway, no complaints at all. Normal street driving, no complaints at all from the torque locker. But being a college student, I do spend a lot of time in tight parking lots, and that's where this thing is kind of annoying. It chirps, it's clunky, it gives you a lot of play. Your shifting doesn't feel as crisp because you got more play because it's an automatic locker. But yeah, eventually I will do an ARB air locker, unless aux eventually comes out with theirs. But yeah, selectable locker is coming for the rear. So in terms of bracketry, I didn't do the Rtec Apex kit because I am stretched. So I have the offset coil perches, and the way the Apex kit is designed, I would have to do a lot of cutting, or it'd be weird how those mounted. So I went with the old school Rtec kit. I just went with their basic short truss. I did the Rtec 3-link bracket because I am 3-linked in the rear. I am going to have to notch that cross member up there because it does hit and it's starting to dent in that cross member. And that is after I already trimmed that bracket a little bit. Down here, it's just all Rtec stuff back here. It's Rtec Trackbar Bracket, Rtec control arm and shock mounts. And then it's just all the Rock Crawler 6-inch stretch kit I was running before. I was able to leave all my stock suspension, which is great. I still have to set up the ABS in the rear, but it's just pretty much, I've got 60-tooth tone rings to match the Dana 60 already on the hubs, and I just got to get the ABS lines ran. But yeah, it's Rtec ABS stuff. But yeah, so that pretty much sums up the rear. I did have to change the length on my drive shafts. I already had 1350 drive shafts, so I just changed the length on those. So I think that was about, I want to say $400 to change the length on both. It's a little steep, but oh well. And then I'm running Method race wheels. They're 4 3/4 inch back spacing. That is probably the narrowest you can go with the Rtec high steer arms. 4 3/4, and like you can see how tight the clearance is there. So a lot of people have asked if you can go 5-inch back spacing on these. No, you can't. So this is the narrowest you can get with the 05 Plus Dana 60, at least, if you're not shortening. So that pretty much goes over everything I did, at least on my 1-ton swap. So pretty much things I would do differently: wear items, replace them immediately. Just don't be cheap. Just replace all your wear items. They will go eventually. I ended up replacing all the calipers pretty much one by one, and it was incredibly annoying because they all seized within 3 weeks of each other. Ball joints all failed. Unit bearings, one failed, and I just replaced both. But yeah, pretty much all the wear items are new now, and I finished this swap in July. It's October now, and just now was when I'm starting to finally be able to do worry-free drives on this thing, where I'm not worried about something failing. Frankly, because I've already replaced everything. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. And all in all, it was a great learning experience. I'm super happy with it. I've already done a good bit of beating on it. Definitely stuff the Dana 44s couldn't have handled. And it's just a great peace of mind having super beefy axles underneath that you can run 40s with and not have to worry about breaking too much. But yeah, so wear items, replace them all. I would do a selectable rear locker. Super happy with the auto in the front. That's about it. Honestly, not too many regrets, but those two were the two that stuck out to me a lot, and the Trackbar Bracket. I would have gone with a different Trackbar Bracket if I were to do it again. But all in all, junkyard axles are not a bad way to go. Like I said, I'm probably about $8 grand deep. Once I do an ARB, I'll probably be about 9 to 10 in. And it all depends on what that extra 6 grand is worth to you. Because for an extra 6 grand, you could have crate axles and bolt them in a weekend. I got sent home from school, college student, so I had a bunch of time at home, and I had 3 months to tackle this 1-ton swap. But if you collect your parts ahead of time and you have all the parts ready, you can get this done in a couple of weeks. I was just doing it as I went because honestly I had the time. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. Super strong. It's expensive, but not expensive as it could have been. And it definitely did make the Jeep a good bit more capable than the Ruby 44s. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once I get this thing cleaned up, I'll do a full detailed walk around because a lot of stuff on this Jeep has changed since the last time you guys saw that. Yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll try to keep videos coming for you a little bit more often. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video.